call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first item of business is the approval of the minutes from our last regular board meeting, May 11th. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes from our last board meeting, May 11th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business are monthly transactions, approval of general fund vouchers 83288 through 83404, and wire transfers 2026-0442 through 2026-0486. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the general fund vouchers and wire transfers as read.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve our general fund vouchers. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is our public comment section. If anybody has anything to share with us, they're welcome to at this time. All right. Then we'll, I don't hear anything, so we'll move on to our fifth item on our agenda, Spotlight on Education. And that is the review of the governor's visit to the junior and senior high school.
Yeah, so a week ago Thursday, Governor Evers came and made an hour-long visit to the high school, and one of his staff members had reached out just the week before and asked about coming up to spend about an hour and asked if that would fit in our schedule. And so I talked to the principals, and we didn't feel like that was something we'd say no to. We couldn't recall. I don't know that I've talked to anyone who can recall a sitting governor coming to visit the school. So obviously Gaylord Nelson, in his retirement years, made some visits here. But anyway, Mr. Melberg, it was your building. I put you on the spot here. You want to share a few items about what happened when he was here?
So they requested 3 stops, and we decided during the time frame they gave us that we had an opportunity to get into a middle school history classroom and a high school history classroom, and then Governor Evers started his career as a biology teacher. So our third stop we went into we were in forensic science, which we thought that was kind of a neat thing to show off as well, but into our biology room. Kids had at each stop had chances to interact with them. The first 2 stops, it was more of a large group setting, where when we got into forensic science, kids were in labs working on projects, and the governor had an opportunity to walk around the room and kind of visit with groups of 3 or 4. It was pretty neat. Another thing that I'm going to guess has never happened is I think we had everybody who represents us in Madison visit Mrs. Rubel's classroom this year. So she, with her civics classroom, had state senator representatives in, and then the governor at the end of the year. So
nice.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable.
Experience for the kids.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
So nice. Any more, Chris?
Just he toured through, and then at the end, gathered outside the office. We gave him a little gift, gave him some Nielsen sausage, so he could get some hometown Clear Lake stuff. And then he took a few questions outside. There was one member of the press here from Intercounty Leader, and took a couple pictures outside with some people, with some kids, and then was on his way. And he hit 3 schools that day. My understanding, he flew up here, to New Richmond, and they said he was going to 2 other schools. I assumed it was in the area, but he actually flew to North Lakeland School District, way up by Minocqua, and then he flew to Sewering. So he actually went to 3 different places, all around the state that day. So, and like I said,
do you know how we were picked?
I asked his staffer. I just said, "Okay, great. Why us?" And there wasn't any particular reason other than she said just trying to get to different areas around the state, and looked in this area and looked at and said, "Well, you know what? We've never been to Clear Lake." So that was pretty much it. So yeah. So neat experience, kind of historic thing. So.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Good for the kids to get a taste of that.
Yeah.
All right, next item of business. Approval of resignations and retirements.
Got a couple here. A later retirement that we got. Brian Johnson, one of our bus route drivers. He's going to finish driving after 4.5 years driving here. He drove for about 5 years in Amory, too, after he retired from his farming career. So congratulations to Brian. We recognized him at our our retirement party as well. Then I've also got Brooklyn Tolzman, who's been our C Squad volleyball coach. She's graduated from college. She's accepted a teaching position at a different district, so she's resigning her C Squad coaching spot. So we're proud of her moving on to her next thing. So.
Right on. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resignation, retirement.
Take your second. All right. It's been properly moved and seconded to approve our resignations and retirements. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is our approval of hires.
So we just have one for a coaching position. We've had it posted this early spring and late winter, but we've had cross-country head coach opening. Josie Wood applied for that. Josie's been assisting with track, working with distance runners last year and this year, and has made a nice connection with some kids. But anyway, that's who we'd like to recommend.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Josie Wood, the cross-country head coach.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve Josie Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is our approval of the 2026 summer school contracts for support staff.
Okay, again, another kind of consent agenda item, but we've got 4 summer school bus drivers, 4 drivers that have agreed to drive routes for summer school, and we've got a handful of paraprofessionals working in the elementary summer school program. This just gives the official release of their contracts to those staff members.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 26 summer school contracts and for support staff and bus drivers.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the summer school contracts. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the update on staffing for the special ed leadership.
Okay, so as we know, Mrs. Powers is retiring from her SPED director leadership position, and so I have been working to try to, we talked about the different options of ways to fulfill that position and cover all those needs. So I've been working with CISA 11 on staffing that. Different options, different availabilities, and finding the best fit between the two. And literally the kind of finalizing and not signed on the dotted line, but agreements to take this approach literally kind of today, finalizing. But we do have a retired administrator from the area, from CISA 11, that will serve as our acting director of special ed on a shorter, kind of smaller contract, so approximately 40 days a year, so like 1 day a week with a few extra days for summer and so on. And then in order to, because of that limited part and because of that person's background, our teachers need the technical assistance, help with the IEP processes of evaluations, re-evaluations, writing functional behavior assessments, behavior intervention plans. And so, as you know, we've contracted with Patty Jacobchek for the last 4 years, and she's going to continue that. But it's a limited 60-day contract, so we are going to contract some extra school psychology time from CISA 11 to fill that gap. So smaller footprint for the director portion, but fill in that technical part, which is much of what Mrs. Powers currently does with some additional school psych time. So that is our plan going forward, and finalizing that. The board, we talked last month, the board moved and gave approval for me to pursue those contracts. So just giving an update on what's going on and what the plan is, and we will be able to reduce costs from current by about $10,000 with this approach. So I don't know if there's any questions. Or
How do you feel about this plan, Chris?
I feel good about it. It's a little bit unorthodox approach in some ways, but I feel like it's the right people.
Professional.
And it's 1 year.
It's a 1 year deal, yeah. So again, we've talked about, we have the opportunity to assess how things are going, and it could be kind of seen as a bridge year, and then we can reassess, even mid-year next year, and if we want to take a different approach, we can. And that's one of the beauties of the CISA 11 contract, and that's what they're direct. Brandon up there said, like, if it's not what you want, just don't renew the contract, which is an easier thing than, say, if you hire somebody. So So I think it's an opportunity, but it's it's not going to be easy. There's a lot of ambiguity still right now with different people coming together who don't know each other and figuring out their
New
roles
teachers,
exactly. So
yeah.
it's going to take some leadership over the summer to get all that sorted out. But I really feel good about the people that we have coming in. So, and some new ideas. From the outside, it's always good to refresh a little bit.
Yeah,
So
good. All right, next item of business then is the approval of the 26-27 speech language therapy contract.
Okay. And I thought I had some notes in here, but mine seem to have.
I can see the notes.
Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of frozen or something. Oh yeah, I'm frozen here. Ugh.
I don't have any notes. Am I frozen too?
I just have a little bit of red,
A little bit of red note. Yeah,
a
I don't know.
sentence or two.
I've had board docs has been glitchy lately, so that'll be another topic for another day. But thank you. But I would say that I would want to talk to the board or to give some updates in closed session regarding kind of some staffing potential plans and contracting with purchase services again with this too. So
All right,
I would recommend tabling that.
All right, you guys are okay with that?
Yep.
All right, that's what we'll do then. Next item of business is the approval of 26-27 WIA membership renewal.
Okay, well, this is another one that is an annual thing that we do just to. Okay, thanks. Hopefully mine frees up here. I don't know what's going on. But basically, this is just formal approval to remain in the WIA. If we don't do that, we can't be in any of the playoffs or tournaments. So I'm assuming that we'll want to do that.
I move to approve the 26-27 WIA membership renewal.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 26-27 WIA membership renewal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the approval of shared course agreement with Unity School District.
Okay, so for many years, a couple decades, CISA 11 has administered the distance learning courses among schools. They're finding that very few schools are doing as much distance learning that isn't dual credit. So they're discontinuing that coordination and administration of it. But there are schools that still have some of it. We're one of them. So we currently work with Unity. Their kids take AP US History from us virtually live. Our kids take AP Calculus from them virtually live. So we, instead of working through CISA, we're going to make an agreement directly between us. So the 660301 is just like our Prairie Lakes agreement that we have with Turtle Lake Prairie Farm Clayton. So we'll exchange dollars back and forth for each student. It's probably going to even out as kind of a wash most years, but talk to the Unity administrator, and he's going to do the same thing with his board. So I guess I would like approval of that.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the shared course agreement with Unity.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the shared course agreement with Unity School District. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of grades K through 4th math curriculum resource.
Okay, so for this part, I'm going to turn it over pretty much to Mrs. Anderson.
All right, so we knew going into the year that we would be doing a resource review. A committee volunteered. I'm not a voluntold type of leader. So we had 8 teachers, K through 4 in special ed, want to be on this committee. And I told them a time commitment because it was a lot. We were meeting at least once a month beyond their contracted day, and they really invested time. So we started with just any resources that on Ed Reports, which is an independent organization that reviews instructional materials, anything that met the criteria of meets expectations. Anything below that, we didn't want it, and that's the highest kind of grading that they give. So we had 8 resources that we were reviewing. We narrowed it to 5 and narrowed that down to 3. We Zoomed virtually with the companies and or schools, local schools that are using the resources. Came down to 2, which one was definitely the one that most wanted, but I just felt like we needed to do some comparison cost-wise. And we landed on a resource that the rep calls illustrative, but the schools that we've talked to call it illustrative. So either way, it's the same resource. We currently are using Math Expressions and have been using that for 10 plus years, a decade.
2014, I think.
So yes, so we've just been doing a 1-year renewal. We are not currently in a contract. We knew this was going to be coming, but with the Act 20 reading resource, we knew it needed to just wait. And we were ready and had capacity to go through this process. So after talking with the rep back and forth, doing a little sweet negotiating, this is the proposal that is coming before you. And it is a 5-year contract. And there is a school near us that uses this resource that we're hoping in the fall to have some teachers visit and kind of see it live in action. And they're excited to do that. And the school is very open. We tried to arrange it this spring and it just kind of time raced away, so.
This is a planned purchase. Last year we knew that we were going to be looking at math. We bought some ELA curriculum 2 years ago in the elementary, a year ago in the high school, so this was kind of the cycle. We knew that we would be buying new math resources here.
You guys want to pay me $1,000 to go down and pick it up for you? I could do that.
We talked about, well, and I think it
Seemed like that
says
far
on there
away.
that it's Iowa, but then we actually, Teresa did a little more digging and it's actually coming from
Pennsylvania. So I asked the rep, I said, we're only about 5 hours away, can we just bring a trailer? And she's like, well, we are 5 hours away, but the warehouse is in Pennsylvania. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Well, tell the other part of that too is that made more sense to me. This is not just a one-time shipment, right?
Right, yes.
So-
Yeah, they're calculating the shipment over the 5 years. So, and I had just asked her, and I'm waiting for some response back regarding, well, what is our cost then for this year, and is this divided then into the 5 years? So I don't think this is the, write the check for that amount. I think it's going to come in chunks over the 5 years. But they're giving you the grand total.
And we may pay for it all, we'll see, depending on what makes
Yeah,
sense.
right.
So, but yeah, it's actually 5 different shipments over 5 years. So I'm like, oh, okay, that made a little bit more sense to me too, because Matt, I was the same as you. I said, wait a minute, that's a lot of money for
Yeah.
shipping. So you did negotiate a little bit with them.
Yeah, she somehow knocked off about $800 this last email that I had, so.
That's
I'll keep seeing what I
Teresa's
can do.
collar tenacious Teresa.
Books.
Books, and, yeah,
Computer.
books, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason it's K-4 is a couple years ago, we did a 5th and 6th grade into math. And
5th, 6th, 7th, 8th.
that's what 7th and 8th uses, so we kind of have that piece which
Which is
connects to this
math,
building.
5th and 6th goes with junior high. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why that connects here. So we have our K-4, 5 through 8, and then our high school courses.
So just for the board's purpose, we generally have our you guys form groups that the curriculum group that selects this curriculum. I don't know how much faith we can place in that going forward, because I'm disappointed that we didn't order How to Do Math the Old-Fashioned Way curriculum, but
Well, that was one of our top 3.
They discontinued that one? No.
1985.
well, good. I will entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve grades K through 4 math curriculum resource.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the math curriculum. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of the contract for our athletic trainer services for 26-27.
Yeah, so as you know, Melissa Lewis has been our trainer for the past 2 years after we went a few years without one. in talking to Mr. Rosine, our athletic director, and talking to others, it's been very successful, been a good relationship. She's provided excellent service and is very committed to our district. So in talking to other districts and our own experience, we know how difficult it can be to find a trainer. So we feel very fortunate to have Mel working with our teams and our kids and coaches. And so talked to her about renewing her agreement. She did want a little increase to her game coverage cost, $5 to increase to her rate. We didn't do any increase last year, so I feel like that's reasonable and doesn't result in a ton of increase in the costs for the year. I have some notes in there, and we track the payments these first 2 years, and really has kind of been less expensive than sort of what we initially, like 3 years ago when we first talked about doing this. We've actually kind of beaten those projections every year, so I think it's been a good experience. I would recommend renewing. So I'm asking for your approval to renew that contract.
Do all other schools in Dunn St. Croix have trainers?
It's a mixed bag. It's kind of like the Lakeland, it's a mixed bag. I can't speak. Mr. Rosine could probably talk a little bit more about it, but I know some of them with their location closer to Eau Claire. Some of them have some contracts with hospitals there that do it. It's kind of a mixed bag. So it's interesting how, again, talk about the old days. It's just become an expectation of care, and rightly so for the student athletes. But yeah, it is. I guess there's the heightened liability and the heightened concussion awareness and so on nowadays. So, but yeah, it's.
If she wasn't doing the concussion portion of it, we'd probably have to have someone else doing that anyway.
I think so. Yeah,
Chris, right?
Yeah, we would. We'd have to have. I don't know what we'd do exactly. We'd have to figure something else out. So.
Okay. Well, any other discussion? All right. Well, then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 26-27 athletic trainer contract.
I'll second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve the athletic trainer services contract. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is approval of Chromebook purchases.
Okay, so been working with Mr. Osmond to try to, our IT director, to try to create a cycle where we are regularly renewing portions or grade levels of our student technology when we can, so that it's not a big hit all at once. We're not having to buy a whole school's worth or something like that. Was a little concerned about technology prices bumping up a lot in the last year, but these really haven't gone up too much from last year. So the Chromebooks that he did shopping around, these are the same models as the ones we bought a year ago, except they're the next generation. I think it's like Generation 5 versus Generation 4. Bo has been very pleased with the ones we got last year. He said they've been solid workhorses. Likes the fact that we can switch out, and these Gen 5 ones, you can actually switch out more parts, so there's more opportunities for repair instead of replacement when things start to go wrong. So we did this last year as well, and I think we'll continue it going forward, but every year we get what's called Common School Fund monies from the state. So this is that unique fund that it's a state statute. It's connected with the public lands that are owned in the state and revenues that come from that, and so it goes into this fund, and every district across the state submits their census, and then we get dollars every year for to be used in libraries, and public libraries get this too. So each year we've been getting over $70,000 a year. This is outside of the revenue limit. So in talking with Mrs. Meyer, our librarian, very on board with this plan. So basically, these Chromebooks are part of the library media. They're checked out to students in the fall. They're checked back in the spring. But it's a nice way to track them. It's a nice way to pay for them. We tend to be pretty flush with that Common School Fund money. As technology changes, and we still buy books, but we buy fewer books. But instead, this is a way to shift that to buy technology for students. So It was it's a little over $30,000, gets us 100 Chromebooks. That'll cover at least 2 grade levels, almost 3 depending on what grade levels we cover. So, and then we just, we rotate them through the kids. We're going to have the kids keep their Chromebook year to year, the same one, and as they rotate through. So, because it's common school funds, we've got about $6,500 to spend down here in June. We'll put that down, and then after July 1st, we'll pay the remainder of it, and they'll actually go on the 26-27 fiscal year with the common school funds. So, I don't know if anyone has any questions.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the student Chromebook purchase.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the Chromebook purchase. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is our strategic plan scorecard review.
All right, so it's been a few months since we've had a check-in on the scorecard. So this one is specifically focused on like engagement and community connection and career and tech ed engagement and career planning and so on, family engagement. And much of the results come from the surveys that we do in the spring with school perceptions. So the last couple of years, we've had school perceptions join us in June to do their overview review. This year, the surveys went out a little bit later by design, and then we also had a little glitch with lower grade levels, parents receiving them, and so we resent them and extended it a week and a half, so no big deal. But it would have been a real crunch and rush to do it. So they're going to come and join us in July to do that overview at the July meeting, plus availability-wise too, it's better. But anyway, that doesn't stop us from still going in. We did get the raw results, and we can go in and pull those results out. So it's always, kind of nice at the end of the year to see how we matched up with our goals. So I think we usually had Mr. Melberg go first, right? High school? Okay. So if you want to look at the high school one.
Is the whole scorecard in there, Chris?
The whole scorecard's in there, so you have to scroll down to a little
Scroll
ways.
down to on the left-hand side in bold where it says support well-being, recognize strengths, and create engagement.
Do you know what page that is?
Looks like,
It's page 4
4,
on my
page 4.
board. compared to my
Okay, yep,
Google
it
Doc.
is.
It's
yeah,
in
so
there.
Yep.
high school.
Which document was it? This
The high school one?
High school.
High school page.
Yeah, high school page. And then, page 4.
So the first goal we're looking at is a new one for us this year. If you remember, we talked about this in the fall, and we have seen an increase in the number of students who are considered chronically absent. So to be chronically absent, that means you miss more than 10% of the school days for any given reason. And research shows any kid missing more than 10% has a negative impact on their learning. So we crept up to last year, we were at 17%. And so we put this goal on there and put a committee together and kind of went after this one pretty hard this year. We set a lofty goal of getting below 10% of kids missing or that are considered chronically absent. Because what the DPI says is any school that has 10% or less of chronic absenteeism is a sign of a healthy system. We made great progress, but we didn't hit our goal. We're at 12. We're going to be right around 12% when it's all said and done. Of our student body, 712. That missed more than 10% of the school year. So made great strides, but our goal next year is keep going with what we've put in place and add a couple of things and hopefully we get that below 10%.
Still made a pretty huge gain.
We made a huge
from
gain.
17 to 12 was really
Yep.
good.
If you have any questions, just jump in anytime, otherwise I'll just keep rolling. The next goal is we're going to increase the number of high school students actively involved in a club or a sport by 3%. This year, 88% of our students were involved in a club or a sport, which is quite interesting because the next goal says we will increase the number of students who agree with the statement, if I need help, I have at least one adult at school I can talk to. 88% of our kids agree with that statement. Now, I don't know, I can't tell you if it's the same 88%, but that seems awful convenient to me. The previous year, we were at 92%, so we actually dropped a little bit of the number of students that agreed with that statement. So we didn't achieve our goal of increasing that by 6%. But I'm still happy. I think it's a sign of a healthy system there that almost 90% of our kids agree with that statement. So
Can I interject? Mr.
Yeah.
Melberg's. So if you look at that's a very aggressive goal. So we had 92% of students agree that they have someone they can talk to, and they still set a goal of 6% increase, which is pretty huge. So to say, yeah, we didn't meet that goal, so it gets marked red, but still, that's still some great results there to have 88% of kids. So we talked about some of that as we were going through our goal. All of us, like, ooh, I guess we'll set that goal a little bit less aggressively next time.
Encourage future goals. 95% of in-person students will complete 100% of their grade assigned Zello lessons each year. Zello is our career planning software or platform that we use. I've got a breakdown of it on the far right side. You can see that 3 of our grade levels hit that goal. We're over 95% of them completed it, and 3 of our grade levels came up short. The nice thing about the scorecard is that we found some holes in our system by grade level, and now we know next year the areas that we have to focus on to make sure that we get where we need to be with our seniors and our juniors and our freshmen. All in-person students will fill out an academic goal sheet that was completed this fall. All in-person students will be provided opportunities for college visits and/or workplace shadowing each year. 87% of our students were provided those opportunities. Same thing here, we found a hole in our system. If our 7th graders, we missed the boat there, and so next year we need to have a plan in place to make sure our 7th graders are getting these opportunities as well. Our 7th graders, if 100% of our 7th graders got there, we'd be at 98 or 99% of our students. So we found a gap in our system that we will target next year. Scrolling down, now we're into our staff, and these are all survey results from school perceptions. So school perception survey, the results surrounding the question, how likely are you to recommend the district as a place of employment, will be above our comparison scores. So if you remember with school perceptions, they always give us a score. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a score nationwide of schools comparable to our size, correct?
School perceptions, yes, is nationwide.
And so we want to beat that comparison score. So our employees in this building, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this place as a place of employment? We scored 7.7 on those survey results. Our comparison score was 6.98. So we met that goal. The next one, same thing, school perceptions. The statement, I have opportunities for training and professional development to improve my work, will be above our comparison score. Our comparison score was 3.82 out of 5. Our staff came back at 3.94 out of 5, so we achieved that goal. And then on the school perceptions, the statement, in the last year I received useful feedback to help improve my work, will be above our comparison. Our comparison was 3.54 out of 5, and our staff came back with 3.72, so we met that goal. Scrolling down, now we're on to families and community. The tough one, on school perception survey, the results around the question overall, how would you rate communication from the school, will be at or above 3 out of 5. We were at 2.62 from our parents on that, which is a little bit of a decrease over the time we took the survey 2 years ago, but 2 years ago was 2.66. So we're going to look for ways to improve that next year. We will increase our rate of participation by 6% in school to work and dual credit programs among our juniors and seniors. 42% of our juniors and seniors this year participated in either a dual credit, a college dual credit program, or a school to work program where they received credit through our youth apprenticeship program. So 42% was a major increase over previous year. And then I put in parentheses there just because I like to track it. Our juniors and seniors this year received 181 college credits, compared to which more than doubled. And there are a couple of things contributing to that. We added 2 courses in our ag department that we combined with CBTC. So those kids, every kid that took that class and earned a certain letter grade received 3 credits for each of those classes. So that was a nice bump for us. And the other piece is our junior class is our largest class, and it's a pretty high achieving academic class. And a number of those kids participated in the Start College Now and Early College Credit Program. So nice increase there. And then all teachers will participate in our annual community business visit, and we completed that this spring by making a few different stops, Cardinal Glass and specialty coating. And we also finished that night off with a tour of the old high school and museum. So that was a good night.
Thank you.
But
Mrs. Anderson, you want to do the
Yes.
elementary next?
Yes, so if you open the elementary scorecard, starting on page 2, again, the same headings. Pillar 1 with support well-being, recognize strengths, and create engagement. Our school counselor, Mrs. Van Hooklam, surveys all of the students with the question, asking them if they have someone that they can talk to, a trusted adult. We wanted to increase that from our last spring, 95%, and the results are 97% of elementary students do have a trusted adult that they can talk to. We also had started a program a couple years ago where every student receives a handwritten postcard we try to spread it out where it isn't just their classroom teacher, but other adults in the building. And we keep a spreadsheet of 280 kids and got it all checked off. So every student received a special postcard from somebody on staff. Going to Pillar 2, recruit and retain. Again, using the school perception survey results. How likely are you to recommend the district as a place of employment? We, in the spring here, were at 8.5 out of 10, which was an increase from last spring's survey. Recognize and support faculty. I feel supported and recognized by my colleagues. We wanted to be above 4 out of 5, even though it decreased slightly, we still reached that goal. And then finally, I regularly support and recognize my colleagues. It did increase. We stayed above that 4.0, which says everyone feels they do a really good job, but some don't feel maybe they're receiving. So it's kind of interesting, those two questions you would think would work hand in hand. So reached the goal of being over 4 with supporting each other. And then under develop, on that survey, I have opportunities for training and professional development to improve my work. We increased that as 4.21 out of 5, and which shows that we do offer our staff a lot of opportunities. Again, this is faculty surveys that we're focusing on the scorecard, but any opportunities we can give them, we try to get people trained on what they need. And keep scrolling down. We are now on page 4. On this survey, in the last year, I received useful feedback to improve my work. We wanted to be above 3.66. We were not last spring, and again, we did not reach that goal this spring. So a good mirror to reflect back on ways that we can grow. And then finally, overall, how would you rate communication? So this was the engagement with families and community. We want to be above 3.2. And again, we did this, I have the spring of 24, we were at 2.64. We did increase to 2.81, but still haven't reached that above 3, but certainly moving in a good direction that we can increase that. Something that our admin team talked about today is communication and what we can do to improve on that. It's always a number one thing, whether it be internally with just our own staff and certainly outside of our walls. So any questions on the elementary card?
Mrs. Powers can't be here tonight, so I'll do the special ed scorecard. Some of these we'll breeze over because she takes district-wide data, which is very similar to what is on the district scorecard. But again, if you go down in the first pillar down to support well-being, recognize strengths, create engagement, and again, this is echoing what you just heard from Teresa. Students who identify at least one trusted adult, it's at 100%. Receiving a positive postcard twice a year, 100%. Again, junior, senior high, you've seen the 88% involved, and 88% agree that they have at least one trusted adult to talk to. Again, that one's red, but it's still a high rating. Encourage future goals. So, let's see. 94% of students with disabilities in grades 10 through 12 will participate in 2 or more of the 3 strategies listed. So 100% of them met that goal. 100% participated in 2, and actually 60% of the kids with disabilities participated in all 3 activities. So again, I thought that was a pretty successful thing. So then the 3 activities are the transition skill interest inventory, DVR services coming to IEP meetings, or 1 or more college or tech school visits or local work experience visits. So met that goal. If we scroll down to pillar 2, staff, and again, the teacher data here is going to mirror the district data, but what's unique about the special education scorecard is it has the paraprofessionals included in, or we focused on that in there because not all, but most of our paraprofessionals work in the special ed department. So overall the results were pretty pleasing there. A lot of green. For the paras, how likely are you to recommend the district as a place of employment? Did meet the goal of beating that comparison score of 7.04, so 7.58, so pretty significant increase from last year. And then recognition and support. I feel supported or recognized by my colleagues when I do a good job, remaining above 3.6, and it did just about that, 3.62, and saw some increase from last year as well. I regularly support or recognize my colleagues for the paras, remaining above 4.0, and it did easily 4.3, also higher than last year. So some nice numbers there. As far as developing staff, and again, I'll kind of focus on the paras because the teachers will hit elsewhere. I have opportunities for training, professional development to improve my work. So we took a little bit of a dip there from 3.91 last year to 3.55. The goal is 3.7. So not bad, but still we took a small reduction there. And then in the last year, I've received useful feedback to help improve my work here. A small decrease from last year, but still at 3.6 meets the goal. So, and then lastly, families and community for special education. There were 2 questions. First question is, how would you rate communications from the special education staff? We want everyone to be at a 3 or 4, or 3 or higher, 3 or 4. Parents, 66% rated a 3 or 4, so that did not meet the goal. 23.8% said a 2, and then we had a small 10% at 1. For the students, 100% of the students, which, that's all, they all participated in that. So 100% of the students felt they had good communication from the special ed staff. And then the second question was, how would you rate your comfort level participating and sharing during IEP meetings? We want everyone rated at a 3 or 4. And 100% of parents that responded said that, and 93% of students felt that they felt comfortable sharing at an IEP meeting, which I think that speaks highly for students to feel, sometimes students can feel intimidated around a table of adults, talking about their education plan. So it speaks highly that 93% of kids said they felt comfortable giving input there. So any questions about the special ed card? And then the district scorecard, again, I can go through that. So again, we go down to the encouraging future goals and recognizing strengths. So most days I like my school. So this is a unique question that's just on the district one. And so we didn't meet our goal there. We're trying to grow our goal up from last year. We were at 6.08 and we're at 5.27. So that's an area that we need to dive into and say, and this is grades 4 through 12. So we need to look at that more closely. Percentage of students reporting engagement. If I need help, I have at least one adult I can talk to. District-wide, met our goal, 89%. We wanted to stay above that 4.06, and we were at 4.37, so met that goal. And then the percentage of high school kids, 9 through 12, who participated in at least one co-curricular, we heard that from the high school already. Overall, 7th through 12th, Zello completion. Again, this is just a summary of what Mr. Melberg presented, and he talked about kind of identifying some holes in specific grade levels that we can tune up. So staff, recognition and support. You see 2 green scores there again. 91% of staff say they feel recognized and supported by colleagues. That's district-wide. And then 85% feel comfortable sharing input and concerns with my supervisor. And that was a nice increase there, 9 percentage points increase. And that met our goal. So that was a good increase there. And then 84%, I have opportunities for training, professional development to improve my work. We wanted to maintain it 90% or more. So we dipped slightly there, down from 4.05 to 3.91. So, and then also feedback. In the last year, I received useful feedback to help improve my work. So we wanted to maintain it 85% or above. So we went from 85 to 84, so I put a yellow for that. But if you look at the raw score, we went from 3.85 up to 3.91. So we actually increased our raw score of how people rate, but just percentile-wise compared to others, we dipped 1 percentile point. And then lastly, family and community engagement. Again, communication. You've seen that from the other scorecards, so the district reflects that all the way through. So we want to, we came close to our goal. We wanted to get to 2.91. We went from 2.7 to 2.75. We increased slightly, but we've got more work to do there. How likely are you to recommend our schools to a friend or family member? We'll increase 3%. From 6.71 to 6.91. We didn't quite get to 6.91, but we went up to 6.87. So again, that was a growth there. And then you've heard from Mr. Melberg, we increased our dual credit and school to work participation up to 42%. So like always, there are some areas to grow. There's some really good news on there. We'll hear more about that from school perceptions next month as well. And also, so I forgot, I had survey ones on Pillar 4 about facilities. So staff, I have the materials and supplies I need to do my job well. So 93% of staff agree with that. And actually, that was one of the things we noted. Like, we're kind of like setting the curve comparison-wise. So that's a good thing to know. People feel supported with what they need to do their job, and school facilities are clean and well kept. And again, that was a very high score there too, 95%. So, and then I talked last month. We checked in on the Funds 46 balances in there too. So. A lot of information, a lot of numbers thrown at you, a lot of talking. So, overall questions from what you heard, we'll revisit that again, some of those surveys again next month. So.
Well, seeing some of the things that we didn't reach our goals, that's the point of this, right? Finding the holes in our system. Hats off again, Chris, for bringing that to our district. How many years ago now, 2? And providing us with all the work you guys put in.
Data, say at least 3 for us.
This is, I think, our second year of, like, I'd say full implementation
year
of this.
on was 3 years ago.
Yeah,
That's when we started it.
And all the extra work it took you guys to get it set up, man.
If we met all of our goals, we wouldn't be setting our goals high enough. We remind ourselves of that because we feel the disappointment when we see that, but we remind ourselves if we've met every one, we're not setting the bar. And then I just want to say, like, when the admin team, the 4 of us get together, we do it in this room and we schedule like a morning and we'll sit and crunch our data, and it's I mean, every meeting's a little bit different, but there's some of the more, I would call them like intense meetings in a good way, where we're just all really kind of focused in and we're talking about numbers and we're splitting hairs and we're having deep conversations about these things and questioning, okay, am I interpreting this right, or what do you have? And I'm really proud of those conversations that our team has when we do that. So that's the point of this is and Mr. Melberg commented the other day, this forces me to focus on, I wouldn't, right now in the last week of school and all the things going on, I wouldn't be thinking about what our Zello participation rate is, but now I am, and thinking about next year, that's a goal. So proud of the work being done by the team.
Yeah, we are too. Okay, next time of business is the update on the facility study review refresh.
Okay, so just a brief overview. So we've had this conversation ongoing in different meetings here this spring. So we had a follow-up meeting with Kraus Anderson, our partners, last week. Mr. Osmondrud and I started out, and then we had the principals join. We had Mr. Rosine join from the athletic director. And what we did is we went through that facility condition assessment from 2023, and we reviewed everything in there and said, all right, like you guys saw the PowerPoint a couple months ago. We went through that and said, all right, we a few things on there that we like, oh yeah, we actually did that already. We took care of the fire alarm system and different things that we updated, different things that have maybe come to light that we needed to add, reaffirming what's on there. So just had the team in here going through that whole thing with John and Becky from Kraus Anderson. So we refreshed everything, looked at all three facilities, the high school, the elementary, and the bus garage. We looked at educational adequacy needs. So are we having facility issues that are holding us back from good instruction or giving us the kind of programs that we need? And so the whole point of that, again, is to reprioritize. So we can identify things, and as we went through, we said, this is a summer maintenance project. We can accomplish this with a few $1,000s, or we have Fund 46 monies, that we have, that we can do this project that's going to have a decent level impact, and it's not going to put a huge dent in our Fund 46. Let's just do this. And then there are other things like some of the HVAC issues or replacing a high school parking lot where we say, this looks like a referendum project. We're not going to be able to, replace a chiller at the elementary school out of Fund 46. That's going to be over $1 million to do that, some of the HVAC controls work at the elementary school. So developing, that list of like, okay, what can we do now, but what are we going to need to do in the short to medium term with a potential capital referendum to do, just simply to do maintenance, not adding on to buildings, but just to do maintenance. And then what are things that are, out there 10 or 15 or 20 years. So it doesn't take long to come up with a list. So with facilities like these, and our facilities are really in good shape. We also had a discussion with Hallberg Engineering, who you've heard that name before here. They've been taking a deep dive into our controller issues at the elementary HVAC and just kind of reviewed what we've done so far, talked about what the solutions are, and looking to bring in contractors to do a short-term, I hate to call it like a Band-Aid solution, but something that will get our system operating better in the short term in the next year or two. But then also having a longer range plan that would probably be part of a referendum to fix it right and get it good for the foreseeable future, for down the years in the future. So having kind of strategic conversations about what to look at there. But we know at the elementary school, again, controller issues with the chiller, that we're continuing to keep it going. And then also the boilers are from 1991, so they're working, but they're just getting to that end of life where we're going to need to think about it proactively, and we don't want to wait for them to die. So that was I just wanted to kind of give an update on the continuing conversations of how that's looking. So.
Okay. All right. Any questions? And the next time of business is the review of achievement gap reduction year-end report.
Okay, Mrs. Anderson.
All right. If you recall, or I will refresh your memory, achievement gap reduction is some funding that we do receive through the state based on some different criteria. And then we have reporting that we do here at the board, but then also we report our results to the state, and they keep track and kind of monitor our progress and such. So every fall and spring, I bring this to you and we see how we're doing. One of the main methods or the main strategies that we use is class size reduction. 1 teacher to 18 students in a classroom, grades 3 and under. Once you get to 4th grade, AGR, achievement gap reduction, it does not apply. So it's for our younger grades. So we can see growth in those younger grades to have them be ready for our upper. But you will notice as we go through, I did include the progress for our older students, even though I don't need to report that to the state. This was the first year that our kindergarten through 3rd grade used a program called Ames Web Plus for both reading and math assessments. We had decided to keep them on one platform. We had been using FastBridge for math, so the teachers want to continue that in K through 3. We are mandated to use it for our ELA screener assessment, so we just are going to have our youngers use it now for math as well. So baseline performance is that fall score, and then as you kind of follow the columns or the rows to the right, you'll see our spring. So that fall progress, that's actually our winter score and then our spring score. So kindergarten and reading went from 91, 71, 68, and then it's like, whoa, what is going on? Well, I would say our kindergarten screener, you come in, can you identify your letters, and by spring, are you reading? So you're starting to see some areas of need based on, I know my ABCs, to I can read this text, or I can pick out these words. So it's quite a demanding screener for a 5-year-old to take, 5 and 6-year-olds. But a 68% composite score is still very strong. Our goal is obviously 100% all students, but 80% is where we really try to strive for. Math, you can see some great growth there. There was a question brought up, well, if we change our math resource, what is going to happen to those scores? I would say our math resource we currently use the resource isn't the key, it's the instructional strategies and the clarity of the instruction and that our teachers have as they're delivering the content. So certainly a new resource may, we'll find some different ways to fill holes, but also maybe see ways that we are missing out a little bit. But I'm not overly concerned that everything's going to nosedive. Because we understand our essential standards, any resource can be attached to what we know kids need. I don't need to go through every grade level, so you can kind of follow it across. But 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, again, use the Ames Web. Just a little disclaimer on what ORF means if you're looking at 2nd and 3rd grade. That's an oral reading fluency score. So a child is timed for 1 minute, and that's what they're based on for success. Younger than that, it's a composite score. And then all of this for the reading portion is what then has a student receive a personal reading plan, which is called a PRP. And that data also is shared with the state on how many students with our Act 20 mandate are on PRPs needing more intensive instruction and interventions. So really high scores, students, just rising to the level of where we know that we've been preparing for, and we really are getting some solid instruction. And this is also with a lot of different teachers that we've had come through the last couple of years. Just really helping teachers prepare, and the grade level teams work really well together through the professional learning community process. So if a teacher leaves, the goal is to continue that great instruction, that great progress, because there's that teamwork. 4th, 5th, and 6th, again, I don't have to keep data on this for this particular document, but it's just there for your reference. A reading is just a composite of all sorts of reading skills that a student would need.
And this is not Ames Web down here, right? This is a different.
This is the FastBridge.
Yeah, it's the FastBridge test. So you see 4th, 5th, and 6th is a different assessment than K through 3rd.
Well, nice. Well, thank you, Mrs. Anderson. All right, next item of business then is our discussion and approval of the district annual meeting date.
Okay, so we have typically historically done the fourth Monday in August. So the way the calendar falls this year, that Monday falls to the 31st, last day it could possibly be, of course. I was toying with, well, do we want to do it the week before? But I think that it's better to keep it on the 31st just because we approve our initial, preliminary budget in August, and then that gives us the easy amount and make sure we meet the timelines for notices before the annual meeting after that preliminary budget gets passed. So I guess I'd recommend keeping it on the 31st, even though it's the night before the first day of school and it's the last day of in service, but that's all right. The other thing is we've gone 7 o'clock for a number of years. Do you want to consider going earlier, go at 6 o'clock or something like that? I don't know that the community has an expectation of what time it is because I always have to remind myself what time it is every year. So I figure if I don't have it off the top of my head, I doubt there's community members that are going to say, oh my gosh, it's always at 7. So I don't know if we want to go earlier, if we want to keep it at 7, whatever the board.
You're running the meeting, so go for it.
We don't have many that attend, so.
Whoever runs the meeting there.
So,
Whether you get your spouses there at 6.
Yeah.
yeah,
Todd,
because
can you be there at 6?
you're supposed to be there at 6. Do we have enough people to have
I'll
motions to make motions? Should we do 6? Is that,
Yeah.
am I hearing that? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thought I'd ask, so. Okay, I guess we'll do, I have it down as a discussion approval, so I guess maybe we should do an approval of the,
I move to approve the annual meeting to August 31st, starting at 6 p.m.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to 6 o'clock on August 31st. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. All right, the next item of business is, sorry, I had to do that quick. Next item of business is the second reading of our board policies. 1210, Board District Administrator Relationship.
one more too, above that one.
Second reading of the following board policy. Definitions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you guys might recall last month we had more of them than that we did the first reading. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So you're like, what happened? Well, so Act 89 happened. So I did not know. I'll take responsibility. I wish I would have waited another month. I met with our Neola rep, Ed Cerny, and shortly after we had our meeting, he sent out an email to all of his districts that he works with. Act 89 is another one of the laws that was passed relating to student-staff relationships and communication about misconduct. And so we did updates for Act 57 on those, and then I didn't know the Neola updates were coming, but Act 89 also has some updates in some of those same policies. So for some of these, I apologize, we're kind of doing a first reading of some of them. So we'll go through it, and it's going to look familiar to you, hopefully, and I can kind of try to remember and point out what changed slightly from the last. So some of the things, in a nutshell, some of the things that were options before became required now, and a lot of the ones that were optional we had chosen anyway, but also there are some new clauses and little phrases added to some of them. So some of these we did do a first reading before, but we're going to kind of do it again, and then I broke them up, and then I pushed out some. We'll have another group next month for first reading that are unrelated to, that are not really time sensitive so much. And then I'll just call attention to the technical corrections down below. Again, we're not going to review those, but those are, I just put them there for your reference to see what they are. So that means they're not any substantive changes, just wording changes. So All right, so I apologize. I jumped in. Did we, actually, sorry, do we need to do,
No.
did we do the approval of
The
the first
first
reading
two.
already?
No.
Okay.
We're ready for, I'll entertain a motion for the second reading.
I move to approve 0100 definitions and 1210 district board administrative relationships.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve 100 and 1210. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business then is the updates and approvals. First reading.
Okay.
And holy buckets.
Yeah. So, all right, get my Act 89 update summaries here. So it's 0144.5, and that, which is board member behavior communications code of conduct. That was a redo because that had some input, some words added from Act 89. And then it's 1213, 3213, and 4213 are all related to student supervision and welfare. So 1213 is support staff, 3213 is teaching staff, 4213 is administration, and then 8462, which is child abuse and neglect, is a first reading. They added some information there about the timing and method of reporting. All right, so if we go through these. So the board member behavior communications and code of conduct is basically matching it to what the teacher brings it into alignment with the teachers. Now these options are optional, or they're recommended, but they're not required. But it gives more alignment with staff and volunteer requirements, creating necessary safeguards for board to student interactions. So they recognize that a board member may have communications or electronic communications with a student as well, and so it's kind of holding the same. Let's see. So I call attention. It's more down so you get down to page 3, and left the options open there. So if you get to that page where there's a big block of drafting note, and then below that. So this looks familiar, or it should look familiar from what we might see in other drafts. So if we want, it's an optional thing to address or put this section in here. So appropriate discussion content when using personal communication devices. Board members must use direct district-approved communication platforms to preserve communications to be reviewed by parents and administrators. Again, that's if you're communicating directly with students. I don't know a situation why or how you would necessarily be doing that unless you were, say, a volunteer coach, like say you're working on the volleyball team or the softball team, and you're using that communication to communicate with kids.
So this is saying I can't talk to my kids' friends?
Yeah, how does this enter in when there's other
If they text me for a ride or...
Yeah, so that's a great question. So like there's a clause in here that protects against, that makes an exception for your own kids, but it does not necessarily account for, your child's close friend, who is a close family friend maybe, and there's a text message with your neighbor who says, hey, can you pick up so-and-so today, would you? So
what do we do then, Chris? Try to make up some verbiage of our own, or?
you can do that. You can, the language is all optional.
How do the teachers handle this?
So, and maybe what we want to do is we could do the teacher and the sports staff, and then that could help us think about it. We could come back to it.
Because they have the same.
It's the same language, yeah.
I mean, I think of my wife as a substitute teacher, and she's got, my kids are always, their friends are always asking her for a ride or those kind of things, and
I think
she's a district employee in that case.
Yeah, with your own kids it's covered, but with others it's not. And so I think that's what's behind the law is like, people who are not your wife who have nefarious intents and then, have those ancillary relationships and then turns into a problem. So but not to say that the law is perfect. So that's it's great questions that you bring up, especially in a small community like ours, where many of us do have children of our own participating, and then we do have close family friends who are also children, that we've we've had relationships with the families our whole lives, and it's like not a big deal to go, yeah, I text and pick up so-and-so from practice. So, something to think about. So, but yeah, maybe we set this aside for now and come back to it if we want to. Look at the teacher and the support staff stuff first. All right, let's do that. Let's go to the next one. So 1213, student supervision and welfare. This is support staff, and it's the same language you'll find in the teacher and administrator. So some of these things we did already when we looked at it last month. The first part about the required notification, we talked about that last month. It's a law that the district shall notify parents of a student when the district receives a report that gives reasonable cause to believe one of the following has occurred: sexual misconduct by a school staff member against a student, a school staff member or volunteer has been convicted of a serious child sex offense and worked primarily with children in a way that would be a felony, or a registered sex offender has intentionally captured an image of a minor student without the parent's written consent. So I think we talked about last month that those would be, that would probably be the current practice anyway. You would reach out to the parents and notify them of that, but now it's law. So it talks about the specific timing and method of the communication. If it's received before the end of the school day, it has to be notified by 5 p.m. If it's after the hours, it's got to be by noon of the next calendar day, in person or by phone. Can't just email. Annual notice of rights. District shall provide an annual notice to all parents informing them of their rights to access records related to the discipline of a school employee under public records law. That's one I find interesting, and I think there'll be a lawsuit about that someday. The standard of care stuff is not new. Not requiring students to perform work or services that may be detrimental to their health.
The annual notice of rights, do we want to get rid of that part?
We have to. That's law. That's not an option.
We have to have it in there?
Yeah, it's the law. It's kind of crazy, I think. But yeah, that is the law. And I misspoke. I was thinking this is the administration one, the 1213. Administrators, and we covered this last time, shall not engage students in social media and online networking media except for appropriate academic, extracurricular, or professional uses only. We gave the example. We put a Facebook post on that says, "Congratulations, Greg, for scoring 1,000 points in your career." And if an administrator makes a comment on the Facebook page that says, "Hey, congrats, great job, proud of you," that's an appropriate school-related, curricular-related, comment engagement with the student on social media versus messaging them directly about non-school related things is not okay, not allowed. The next big section, next big green section, again, this is all required language about appropriate staff-student relationships, prohibited conduct and behaviors. It specifically spells out and defines what grooming behaviors are.
Chris, question.
Yeah.
So to Matt and Greg's point earlier, so under prohibited conduct behaviors, it says this section applies to communication behaviors that occur during or outside of school hours between an employee acting in an employee's official capacity. So if they're not acting as a teacher, but they're acting as their kid's dad, I would assume we're okay there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for catching that.
And that same language would be in the other.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we can think of a lot of unique situations where, you're messaging another student, "Oh, by the way, that student's my nephew, or my niece, or my godson, my neighbor's child, so yeah, we can think of definitely unique exceptions that could happen, so thanks for catching that, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Grooming behavior is defined as a course of conduct, pattern of behavior, series of acts with the intention to condition, seduce, solicit, lure, or entice a child for the purpose of engaging in sexual contact. Specifically defined, some examples include the following, lays it out there. The next section is about, this again, the clause there is about boundary violations is not optional, but then there's some options underneath. So what we selected to recommend to the board is the clause about any behavior that lacks a clear educational or medical justification or that serves the emotional, physical needs of the adult rather than the student is strictly prohibited. Such behaviors may be indicators of grooming and will be subject to immediate investigation. Inappropriate boundary violations may include but are not limited to the following. And then it talks about inappropriate comments about the student's appearance or body, taking an undue interest in a student, initiating or extending contact with students beyond the school day for personal purposes, using messaging to discuss personal topics of interest with students outside of curriculum or school-related things, giving rides in the staff member's personal vehicle, taking students on personal outings without administrative approval. And again, this is when you're acting in your official capacity as a coach, as a teacher, as a staff member. Invading students' privacy, going to students to their home for non-educational purposes, inviting students to the staff member's home without proper chaperones, giving gifts or money to students for no legitimate educational purpose, accepting gifts or money from a student for no purpose, being overly touchy with students, favoring students by inviting them to come to the classroom at non-class times, getting a student out of class to visit with a staff member, providing advice to or counseling a student regarding a personal problem, being alone with a student behind closed doors without a legitimate educational purpose, telling a student secrets, having secrets with the student, other similar activities. So any one of these things would be cause for triggering an investigation, because you can see some of these, getting a student out of class to visit with a staff member. Well, I would want to know more information as the administrator. I would want to investigate that more and say what was the purpose for having the student come down. If it was a legitimate purpose, and the investigation reveals that, okay. But if it's something that's happening regularly for questionable reasons, well, let's start to have a conversation about something's not right here, perhaps. Preferential treatment or favoritism. Staff members that demonstrate or give the perception of preferential treatment toward a student or group of students can be a cause for questioning. You can see this has been a big focus of legislation. There were some high-profile situations that led to this being a hot topic in Madison. So, the next part is, I believe, what part of there was so much here that I can't recall if the next section was part that was added since last month, but appropriate discussion content when using personal communication devices. Paraphrasing here. When staff and school officials communicate with students using PCDs, discussions must be appropriate and not prohibited grooming or boundary violations, professional, and related to legitimate school purposes. Communications described here should be as brief as possible and only contain what's necessary. Appropriate content does include instructional communications, assignments, coursework, academic support, school-related activities, clubs, athletics, events, field trips, rehearsals, scheduling or logistical information related to classes or school programs. Okay, the field trip tomorrow is canceled. Pedagogical assistance related to school participation, clarifying expectations, reminders, or academic assistance. safety or emergency communications. So what we're going to see too is communications such as this needing to be on a district-approved method. So this is saying the types of things that are appropriate to communicate about. There's another section that talks about how and where to communicate it. You know, you can be communicating appropriate content, but you still can't be doing it texting a student directly. It needs to be using an approved app, whether it's our rooms on our Clear Lake app, or whether it's been in the past SportsU or Team Reach or Remind or one of those vehicles like that. Communications being professional in tone, limited to school-related matters. Here's the clause, that second paragraph there on page 5. Employees who are parents of students enrolled in the district may communicate with their own children using PCDs outside of district-approved platforms, provided such communications are personal in nature, not conducted in the employee's official capacity. Again, texting your child about when you're going to pick them up, or remember to do your homework or bring your math book home. This exception does not permit the employee to engage in district-related communications with the other students outside of approved platforms, nor does it exempt them from applicable laws, policies, or expectations regarding professional conduct. Let's see. Note there about social media. It's not part of the policy, but a drafting clause. There's the next part I referred to. District-approved personal communication device communication platforms. We are required to designate, communicate which ones are the approved platforms with board members, staff, coaches, advisors, and approved volunteers. So, for example, we have teams using Team Reach or SportsU, or in the past Remind, or in the past, what's the other one? I can't think. Maybe it was Remind. Other ones that are out there. We have rooms on our Aptigee, Clear Lake app. So I think now we have to be much more specific about putting it out there. What are the actual approved ones? We've been doing that, but now I guess it's just a higher level of accountability of how we state what it is. So the approved communication platforms are district email or messaging, district-approved social media platforms, and other district-approved messaging apps. When we say district-approved social media platforms, I think that is a catch-all, because some of those, like for example SportsU, that is considered a social media platform actually, because you can interact on there and kids can comment and parents can comment, and so like our filter flags it as a social media, so I think that's why they call it that. But so we added letter C, just other district-approved messaging apps. Fortunately, this one covers 3 policies, so we're going through this one deeply, but it covers 3 different staff groups. Here we go. This policy, so outside district and staff-parent relationships. This policy permits appropriate interactions from legitimate, pre-existing non-district relationships, e.g. relatives, family, friends. So Matt, kind of to your point. Staff who are parents of enrolled students must maintain professional conduct in accordance with this policy in all school-related activities and communications, avoiding favoritism or conflicts of interest. Where such relationships comprise professional responsibilities, the district may intervene. Or where they compromise professional responsibilities, the district may intervene. So it does have, it does permit appropriate interactions from legitimate pre-existing non-district relationships. So again, this is my neighbor who's been a family friend the entire life, before I worked at the school, or before I started coaching or whatever. So, but it is cautionary, Reporting of allegations of inappropriate staff and student relationships, student reporting process, staff required reporting is outlined there. Talks about students reporting to a trusted staff member or school counselor. All reports will be treated confidentially. to the extent legally possible. Talks about staff. Any concerns about any appropriate staff student conduct must be reported immediately to a supervisor, principal, or district compliance officer. Anonymous reports will be investigated per district harassment procedures in 5517. Mandated reporting. All staff are mandatory reporters. Suspected child abuse, including by another staff member, must be reported immediately. Again, that's really not new, but it's new language in this policy. Violations and consequences of this policy may be result in disciplinary action up to including termination, may be reported to external agencies as required by law, like the DPI, or law enforcement. Level of discipline will be dependent on the severity of the violation. Policy will be posted on the district website, reviewed annually with staff, and included in new employee onboarding. Those are all requirements. Those are not choices to include those phrases there. The annual training, it's required of all employees, includes identifying, preventing, reporting, grooming, and professional boundary violations, appropriate content and methods of communication, and so on. So the Department of Public Instruction is developing a training for school districts to use with their employees, so that it's, not everybody figuring it out for themselves. We plan to show this policy and parts of this policy to staff in August, because this is a big deal. This is some big stuff here. So, and it's got some pretty severe, consequences attached to it. So 12, 13, 21, 12, 13, 32, 13, and 42, 13 are the three different employee categories. It's the same language. So if you skim through it, it's all the same. It's one of those odd things about our Neola policies that they have different categories for support staff, administration, and teachers. So 3213 and 4213 have basically, we've gone through those as well by doing that. It's a lot to take in. Any comments, questions? Keep moving on.
Yeah, let's keep.
So then 2131, reading instructional goals and kindergarten assessment. This relates to Act 20, I believe, and continued tightening up and adding policy to make sure that it matches legislation. Board shall approve a program of reading goals for students 4-year-old and 5-year-old kindergarten to grade 12. So you could consider the AGR report that we just did would be examples of reading goals for our younger students. Not new about having a reading specialist develop and coordinate a comprehensive reading curriculum, but adding grades 4-year-old kindergarten and 5-year-old kindergarten through 12. So that's new to add those young grades. Makes reference to using, like Teresa mentioned, the DPI's list of preferred or identified policy or curriculums. Talks about interventions and identifying at risk based on assessments. Again, kind of relates to Act 20. And then the creation of a personal reading plan. Again, that's all related to Act 20. So this is specifically related to kindergartners. So it's in the general Act 20 policy that we did, I think, last summer. But now this includes more specifics for kindergarten. So you'll have a chance to. This is first reading, so if there's anything in there that you want to look at more next month, we can certainly do that. Any questions on that one? Keep moving along. 5136 is personal communication devices. So this is, I believe, the one that is related to the new law that was passed. Related to cell phone use in school. It's just related to Act 42. It means that we have to have adopted this summer, defines what a personal communication device is. Basically, they're talking about cell phones, but defines what it is and what the rules are. So what we did what Ed and I did is we went through the draft and we selected the options that are reflective of what we currently do with our policy. And we've talked about it a few times the last few years. So we picked the ones that are reflective of the policy that we currently have. And then what we will do is, and this Neola policy has all the language in it to make sure that it's in compliance with the state law. And then what we will do, one of our jobs for the summer is we've committed to going through, looking at our handbook policies and making sure that they don't conflict with anything that's written in here. I don't believe they do. And then also we are required now to report, we need to report our handbook policies to the DPI and give them a copy of it. We just do that one time, but if we ever change our cell phone policy, then we need to send revisions to them. All right, 754003, student technology use and safety. So this actually is interesting. We've seen all the stuff about appropriate communications between adults to kids. This actually puts the same onus on the kids communicating with adults. So if kids are going to communicate with teachers, coaches, etc., they also need to use the district-approved communication platforms. So, and it needs to be related to, school curriculum and school relevant. So. AI clause in there about prohibited from using AI to bully, harass, threaten, impersonate, create, or distribute. We talk about, you've heard of the term deepfakes, people using AI to create, disturbing images or inappropriate images that appear to be another student or something like that. So that's in there. We have a whole separate policy on academic honesty. It refers to that. So again, it kind of puts some of the onus on the children as well. If there's no questions, 8120 is also, this is a new policy for Clear Lake, but it relates to volunteers, which we do have. And again, same stuff. Volunteers need to use, if they're going to communicate directly with our students, the approved platforms, district email, district approved social media or messaging apps, not anything outside that. So again, we often have volunteers serving as coaches. So I would say this would be where it would probably be most relevant.
What about pastors?
Yeah. Yeah. Although I would say, I don't know if we have pastors communicating with our students in any way. Forensics coach. But that's not in capacity as a pastor, that's in capacity as a coach. And, not really a volunteer, I guess. But yeah, they would be held to the same standard. Talks about professional in tone. Also talks about volunteers shall be screened through sex offender registry. Now, what we do is we have gone to doing background checks on volunteers, so that includes that. So, board member may serve as a volunteer coach or a supervisor of a co-curricular activity, so it allows that. That's a law a few years ago, but board members can serve as volunteers, volunteer coaches. Board member may serve as a volunteer bus driver. That's again a law from a few years ago. A volunteer who transports students in a private vehicle for school-sponsored activities or trips must abide by the guidelines in policy 8660, which we have, requires insurance approval, requires parent approval, stuff like that. We really rarely do that, if ever. And volunteers transporting in school vehicles. So let's say, for example, we need to take 2 vans to the cross-country meet. One of the coaches can't be there, so they'll get a parent of one of the cross-country players or athletes to drive the other van. We get them approved on our insurance card, and we make sure we do, we have that background check with the insurance, and then they're approved to drive the team. That's an example of that. So just gives the, things that we do already, but expectations for volunteers. So, 8462 is child abuse and neglect, which again, we saw this policy last month, but again, it's relating to Act 57 and 89 talks about the specific timing that I referenced earlier, and method of reporting if there is an allegation that's considered to be potentially legitimate, reporting that needs to be done to the parents in a timely fashion in a certain way in person. So same language that we saw before. So it's just adding to the old child abuse and neglect policy that we've had. Any questions on that? Last one here is food service. So this is one that I added. This comes as a result of our administrative review for food service. So we just updated this not too long ago, December of 2025. So I was a little caught off guard by why it didn't have this. But so if you scroll down to page 2, and you can see my handwritten additions there. So this is again a requirement of the law that with the new law that requesting special dietary accommodations for a student with a disability that restricts the diet must provide the medical statement for special dietary needs signed by a state authorized medical authority, which is a medical professional authorized in the state of Wisconsin to write prescriptions. And then I had to add in, or by a registered dietitian, because that is the law. So we had to add in that phrase. So I'll be doing that to comply with the law. So it's 2 spots in the policy. So that came back from our food service audit. Any questions about that one? I've been talking a lot, so I'm getting ready to be done talking about Neola policies. Sorry, that's a lot. There's especially some big ones there. So.
We've only been on this for 15 minutes, but didn't time slow down there?
It felt like it to me. I don't know about you guys. And I was the one talking. I think it's been longer than 15 minutes, hasn't it? Well, how long has it been, Mr. Melber? You're usually a good timekeeper. I don't know. Has it been longer than 15? Sorry for our guests. Sorry, that's not much fun to listen to, but policy is not exciting. So. Do you guys want to look at the board member behavior one? Do you want to think about it and talk and bring back ideas to the next meeting?
Well, it's the same language as the other groups, so I don't think.
Right, and then we get the little out for.
So I'm going back. I'm opening it back up now. So just pick the same options that we had for everybody else.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough not to hold as a leader to hold yourself to the same standard as everyone else.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, sorry and thank you for looking at all those together, but important part of what we do. So, technical corrections again; those are just there for your reference. So.
Do we need to approve the technical corrections?
You know what? We probably should.
Yes.
All right, well, then I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the policy technical corrections.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the board policy technical corrections. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business.
Well, I was going to say for our guests or if anyone listening, technical corrections, again, they don't change the policy. They're just changing verbiage in there or grammar, stuff like that. So, sorry.
Yep. Next item of business is our superintendent notes.
Okay. Busy time of year. You're wrapping up the school year, which is all its own craziness. You're starting to plan for summer school, planning for next year. We're closing out the budget. We're closing out orders. Planning, like today, our admin team meeting was a little different focus. We were talking like bigger picture for the summer. What are kind of a big, trying to lay out the summer and meetings and so on and our own schedules. Challenge we're going to have is staffing for bus drivers. You're going to see some more ads coming out from us, trying to attract some. We had another retirement. We've had another. We've had notice a month or two ago about someone who's not coming back. So that's the big challenge right now is finding bus drivers. Again, want to give credit to our substitutes that have kind of strung it together here throughout the years. It's been a tough year to get through with some health issues with some drivers and stuff like that. So. Awards night, baccalaureate graduation, were all a big success back at the end of May. Tremendous. We had $96,000 in scholarships handed out at the awards night, so wonderful. A lot of field trips and special activities at the elementary, 6th grade and kindergarten graduation, big successes. I just want to talk about, in this room, Mr. Crawford has been, as he's done for many years, correcting AP tests, AP US history tests. So he works, and as we give him the last couple days, we get a sub for him, and then he works into the first few days of summer, but he's correcting AP US history tests, and he said it's some of the best professional development he does because of all the practice he gets and the norming that they do. You know, it helps him then with his own students the following year, teach them how to be really good on those essays. So kudos to him for doing that. Our last day of school was last Friday the 5th, of course. We always kind of laugh, the elementary students, summer, last day, whatever. And then 2/3 of them are coming back this week for summer school, so it's kind of funny. But so in service tomorrow, right, Mrs. Anderson? And kids start on Wednesday right away. Just want to shout out to our retirees, Michelle Kelly, 27 years in Clear Lake, Tanya Wolf, 25 years in Clear Lake in 2nd grade, Mrs. Kelly 1st grade, Mrs. Wolf 2nd grade. Don Powers, 21 years in special ed as a teacher and director in Clear Lake. Brian Johnson, 4.5 years as a driver. You know, we had over 77 years of experience that retired. We had a nice retirement end of year celebration on Thursday last week. And thanks to Matt and Dina Anderson for letting us use their facility, which was great. And we had 15 past employees. We started inviting former retirees, former employees to come back. So it's kind of a reunion. And we had at least 15 past employees who were there. So that was pretty cool, pretty neat. They really enjoyed it. Second year that we've done that. So we had fun with that. So that was cool. Future agendas, we'll have the school perceptions overview next month on Zoom. I mentioned that. We'll have handbooks here in July and August. We'll have end of year stuff, reports that we do, like, you know, reports to the DPI on Act 12 and approving our standards and things like that. So just looking ahead at some of our typical summer stuff coming up. So that's all I've got.
Wonderful. Thanks, Chris. All right, the next item of business is our contemplated closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 paragraph 1C and 19.85 paragraph 1E. The board will discuss staffing and staff compensations, and the board will deliberate or negotiate the purchase of services. So I will pull the board. Dave?
Yes.
Corey?
Yep.
Myself, yes. Matthew?
Yes.
All right, I pull the board. Thank you for being a guest. We're going to go into closed session now. All right, we are back in open session. I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to move Danielle Clark to .4 FTE and then filling in with the speech through CISA 11 contract.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And probably moved and seconded to change Danielle's contract and
Per her request to
for her
add.
request and request
Or we'll contract the rest
More
with
for
CISA 11, yeah.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to put on an agenda? Future agenda items? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the last item of business, which is adjournment. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
All right, thanks, everyone.